Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4, Verse 1. This is translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We're reading from the 1975 first edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it is available for download from the website krishnapath.org. Free download. krishnapath.org. So the title of the chapter is Hamsaguhya Prayers, and in reading the summary previously, we know that we're going to be hearing about the austerities of the Prachetas, and we're going to be hearing about Daksha, Prajapati, and we'll be seeing the activities of the devotees and the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So, text 1. Now, this is the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva is relating messages of Godhead. He's a suitable speaker. He's a realized soul. The Bhagavad Gita says, approach a bona fide spiritual master. He can impart knowledge to you because he has seen the truth. Inquire from him submissively and render service. So Parikshit Maharaj is doing that. He's taking instruction from Sukadeva Goswami, and his form of service is to hear submissively. And by his hearing, we are also able to hear, because this conversation is being relayed throughout time because of Maharaj Parikshit's submissive hearing. This conversation was able to take place, and then we get to overhear it, and we get the benefit. So Maharaj Parikshit became perfect simply by hearing. And he's asking questions of Sukadeva Goswami also. It's a similar situation to Krishna and Arjuna, where because Arjuna was inquiring submissively from Krishna, the conversation was recorded for all time. And so everyone gets the benefit who hears that conversation. So, the Blessed King, in this case it's Maharaj Parikshit, the Blessed King said to Sukadeva Goswami, my dear Lord, the demigods, demons, human beings, nagas, beasts, and birds were created during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu. You have spoken about this creation briefly in the third canto. Now I wish to know about it elaborately. I wish to know about the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by which he brought about the secondary creation. Secondary creation, that must be referring to the material creation. Or is that referring to the creation of the bodies of the living entities? Maybe we'll find out. Let's look at the word for word and see. The subsequent creation. Well, in any case, he wants to hear about the potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Text, that was 1 and 2. Text 3. Sutta Goswami said. Now, the original conversation was between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami approximately 5,000 years ago. At that assembly of sages where this was being recited, there were other saints and sages and yogis and spiritual masters. They were also assembled there. And Sutta Goswami overheard this conversation also. And so now Sutta Goswami is relaying what he heard of this to the sages at Naimisharanya, who are assembled at the because to perform 1,000-year sacrifice, because they're concerned. They can see that the age of Kali is approaching. After the demise of Maharaj Parikshit, very quickly things began to deteriorate within the human society. And we're well into it now, 5,000 years into the deterioration. So Sutta Goswami is speaking to the sages at Naimisharanya. Sutta Goswami said, "O great sages assembled at Naimisharanya, after the great yogi Sukadeva Goswami heard King Parikshit's inquiry, he praised it and thus replied." So Sutta Goswami is going to be telling the sages what Sukadeva Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit. The unique thing about this is that in the conditioned state, in the material world, if he said that she said, that they said, that she said, that he said, you never get the original message. It always gets corrupted. There's a game that children and other people like to play too. It's called telephone. And you sit in a circle, and one person has a message, and they tell the person quietly in the ear of the person next to them the message. Like just some simple thing, say, there's maybe 10 people sitting in a circle, and they'll say, and they pass it one to the other like that in the ear quietly. So the first person, they may say something like, "I went shopping today and I bought a new pair of shoes." And then the person next to them will tell the person next to them, and then it goes, and by the time it comes back, it's hardly recognizable. It's something like, "I was dancing the other night and I didn't know which partner to choose." It changes. But disciplic succession is not like that. So if Sutta Goswami is telling the sages at Naimisharanya what he heard Maharaj Parikshit, what he heard Sukadeva Goswami tell Maharaj Parikshit, and Sukadeva Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit what he heard from Vyāsadeva, it doesn't change. This is disciplic succession. The message does not change. This is what's unique about the messages of Godhead, is they're passed down and handed down without corruption. And this has been going on for a very, very long time. It goes all the way back to Lord Brahma, who heard directly from Lord Krishna at the beginning of the creation, millions of years ago. So this is disciplic succession. Transcendental telephone. Okay, so Sutta Goswami said to the sages that, text 4, Sukadeva Goswami said, "When the 10 sons of Prachinabarhi emerged from the waters in which they were performing austerities, they saw that the entire surface of the world was covered by trees." Okay, so King Prachinabarhi had 10 sons, and they were performing austerities in the water. Okay, When they came out, they saw that the world had changed. It had become overgrown with trees. Prabhupada's commentary. When King Prachinabarhi was performing Vedic rituals in which the killing of animals was recommended, Narada Muni, out of compassion, advised him to stop. Prachinabarhi understood Narada properly and then left the kingdom to perform austerities in the forest. His 10 sons, however, were performing austerities within the water, and therefore there was no king to see to the management of the world. When the 10 sons, the Prachetas, came out of the water, they saw the earth was overrun with trees. Interesting. That performing Vedic rituals sometimes involves Vedic sacrifices, sacrificing an animal. But if the mantras are chanted properly, the animal goes into the fire as an older animal and comes out of the fire as a new animal, a new birth. So it's not exactly, a barbecue. It's not like that. The animal goes into the fire, the old body is consumed, and they come out of the fire with a new young body, if the mantras are chanted properly. And these are the benefits of this is elevation to higher planetary systems. That's why people do these things for. It's Vedic ritualistic sacrifices. But Narada Muni is a great devotee of the Lord, and he recommended, don't waste your time with this. So we might see, well, the compassion Narada Muni had for King Prachinabarhi was to stop hurting the animals. But if the animal goes in as an old animal and comes out with a new body, the animal's not hurt. So what was the compassion of Narada Muni? Just like we were reading and hearing in the previous chapters and discussions, it's a waste of time. Because all that can be achieved by doing these fantastic sacrifices is the possibility of elevation to the higher planetary systems. But they're still under the jurisdiction of birth, death, old age, and disease, the system of punishment and reward, and it is temporary, although going there to the higher planets, the time is relative, it changes, and it can stay there for a very, very long time. But it's not eternal. They have to come back. Birth and death. They're still entrapped in the cycle of birth and death. So we have to say the compassion of Narada Muni was to not waste time with these sacrifices. Prachinabarhi understood Narada properly, left the kingdom to perform austerities in the forest. So again, austerities in and of themselves, the same thing that's achieved by Vedic ritualistic sacrifices is achieved by austerities, is to go to the higher planetary systems. So what was accomplished here? Just traded one for the other, and they both have the same result. But there's a factor in here, the devotee, Narada. Because King Prachinabarhi took instruction from Narada, and he performed austerities under the direction of Narada Muni, under the direction of a Vaishnava, a great devotee of the Lord, then those austerities had something else. Those austerities would lead to something else. They would lead to devotional service. They would lead to the actual transcendence, because he was taking direction in performing them from a pure devotee. So this is Narada's compassion. Don't perform these Vedic ritualistic sacrifices according to the Karmakanda section of the Vedas. Listen to me instead. If you want to do something, you have to do something. Perform austerities in the forest under my direction. So this is the compassion of the devotee. They can engage the conditioned soul in activities aimed at devotional service. They can engage them with that devotional aspect in there. And that takes the conditioned soul out of the jurisdiction of the three modes of material nature. And this is the compassion of the devotee. So while this was going on, Prachinabharhi's getting the mercy. His 10 sons were performing austerities within the water. And there was no king to see the management of the world. So the whole royal family was off doing these austerities. And when the sons came out of the water, saw that things hadn't been managed very nicely and that everything was overgrown. So continuing Prabhupada's commentary, when the government neglects agriculture, which is necessary for the production of food, the land becomes covered with unnecessary trees. Of course, many trees are useful because they produce fruits and flowers, but many other trees are unnecessary. They could be used as fuel and the land cleared and used for agriculture. And we see that here, where I am staying, it's a very wonderful climate. It's actually tropical. It's the United States, southern part, southern Florida. It's very beautiful. Things grow here wonderfully, all kinds of things that really can't grow in the rest of the country. It's a very big country. You have the mangoes grow here, and papayas, and coconuts, and bananas. They grow like weeds here. And just, they grow, just grow. It's very nice. But nobody plants them. They plant other things, just trees. No fruits, not even any flowers. A lot of green leaves. And it's a little bewildering why they don't plant these wonderful trees. Mango trees are very pretty to look at also. Avocado trees, they have nice foliage. They give good shade, but people don't plant them. So, saying here that when the government neglects agriculture, the land becomes covered with unnecessary trees. So the people are not inclined. They have other agendas. And the government is not encouraging people to use their land, the little bit of land that they have around their house. They don't necessarily have farms, all of them. They have a little house with a little bit of land. They're not encouraged to plant these things. It doesn't even take any care. You just stick it in the ground and it grows. They're not encouraged. The general climate of the social and political, cultural climate of the people is not in tune with the natural climate. So, of course, many trees are useful. They produce fruits and flowers, but many other trees are unnecessary. When the government is negligent, less grain is produced. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishigaraksha Vaniyam, Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam, the proper engagements for Vaishyas, according to their nature, are to farm and protect cows. The duty of the government and the Kshatriyas is to see that members of the third class, the Vaishyas, who are neither Brahmins nor Kshatriyas, are thus properly engaged. Kshatriyas are meant to protect human beings. Vaishyas are meant to protect useful animals, especially cows. So, a little bit of a overview of how the healthy human society functions. It is the Kshatriyas to see to the protection of the people, and part of that is to see that they're properly engaged. and that the Vaishyas, their service, and it's natural propensities, nothing forced. Some people are inclined toward Kshatriya-type activities, and other people are inclined toward working with the land and the cows and the animals. People have these natural inclinations according to the modes of material nature associated with the birth that they've taken. So the Vaishyas, they see to the protection of the cows, and that involves seeing that the cows are serving nicely. They have what they need, they're taken care of, and they're giving milk. And the males are suitable for engaging in tilling the fields. And the females, they're giving milk, producing young. So this is, the Vaishyas are seeing that the cows are engaged, and the Kshatriyas are seeing that the Vaishyas are engaged in engaging the cows. And mercantile activities also, trade. The Vaishyas are producing the goods, the fruits and vegetables and grains, and they're taking care of the cows. So, yes. But when the government is negligent, the Vaishyas aren't engaged properly, and then there's less grain, the cows aren't taken care of, everything becomes difficult. Text 5. Because of having undergone long austerities in the water, the Prachetas were very angry at the trees. Desiring to burn them to ashes, they generated wind and fire from their mouths. So, performing austerities can make the heart very hard. It's one thing, austerities, someone's very austere, they can become very stiff and kind of hard-hearted because of all the austerities. So the Prachetas, they underwent long austerities. But what happened when they came out of their austerities? They were angry. They get angry at the trees. They were in the water. They left everything unattended. But when they came out, they were angry at the trees. So their anger took the form of desiring to burn the trees, and they generated wind and fire from their mouths. So much for austerities in the water. Their father was a little better off. He was performing austerities under the direction of a pure devotee, Narada Muni. Prabhupada's commentary. Here the word tapo dipita manyava indicates that persons who have undergone severe austerity, tapasya, are endowed with great mystic power, as evinced by the Prachetas, who created fire and wind from their mouths. Although devotees undergo severe tapasya, however, they are vimanyava sadhava, which means they're never angry. They're always decorated with good qualities. Bhagavatam 3:25-21 states, Titikshava karunika surida sarvadehinam ajata satrava shanta sadhava sadhu bhushana. A sadhu, a devotee, is never angry. Actually, the real feature of devotees who undergo tapasya, austerity, is forgiveness. Although a Vaishnava has sufficient power in tapasya, he does not become angry when put into difficulty. If one undergoes tapasya but does not become a Vaishnava, however, one does not develop good qualities. Yeah, because the devotee, why are they performing austerities? Because they want to please Krishna. They're performing their austerity under the direction of the devotees of the Lord as an offering to Krishna. Not for any material benefit or material result, simply to please Krishna, that they may develop more love for the Lord and be engaged in devotional service, so they don't become angry if they're put into difficulties because they don't have anything material to achieve. There's no material result. They're not looking for power. That fire can come out of my mouth. So, there's a difference in the austerities performed by the prachetas and the austerities performed by devotees. Prabhupada continues, for example, Hiranyakashipu and Ravana also performed great austerities, but they did so to demonstrate the demoniac tendencies. Vaishnavas must meet many opponents while preaching the glories of the Lord, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that they not become angry while preaching. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given this formula: Trinadapi sunichena, Tororapi sahisnuna, Amanina amanadena, Kirtaniya sadahari. Quote, one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. End quote. Those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord should be humbler than grass, more tolerant than a tree. Then they can preach the glories of the Lord without difficulty. They should not become angry while preaching. We learn from Bhagavad Gita where this anger comes from. What is it? Contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for them. From attachment, anger arises. So in preaching, there's no material goal. There's no material attachment. So there shouldn't be any anger, material anger. Become angry means material attachment. Now there is anger, transcendental anger, we see with Hanuman. He became very angry when he was inside the kingdom of Ravana, and he was apprehended and tortured. They set his body on fire. They set his tail on fire. And he became very angry, and he ran through the city and burnt it down. So sometimes there's a time and a place for anger, but Prabhupada is advising here for the devotees, the disciples, not to indulge in this anger, and that it will be easier to preach the glories of the Lord without difficulty. And we see that Lord Chaitanya, appearance day is tomorrow. All over the world, preparations are being made. Chanting and hearing is being increased. Feasts are being planned, plays, performances. The deities are being given new, beautiful outfits. If anyone would like to know what Krishna looks like and what he wears, just go to the temple and look at the deity, and then there'll be no doubt, oh, this is what Krishna looks like, this is what Krishna wears. So in his appearance as Lord Chaitanya, he's being honored tomorrow. Around the world, the whole world is going on. Wonderful time, the whole planet will be increased. Mahamantra and kirtans. So the consciousness will be elevated by these wonderful festivals. So for the devotee not to become angry while preaching, and we see in the pastime with Jagai and Madhai that when Lord Nityananda was attacked by the drunkards, and he was physically, they struck him physically. I think it was mud high, or was it jug high? I'll have to go back and look. One of them. They were equally bad, both of them. One of the drunkards struck, I think it was mud high, just struck Lord Nityananda in the head with a broken piece of pottery and wounded him and caused some blood to flow. And Lord Chaitanya immediately became angry. He was furious. He rushed to the spot. He was just going to kill them directly, which would have been good to be killed directly by the Lord, as you get liberation. But Lord Nityananda stopped him and pleaded on their behalf that everyone in this age is like Jagai and Madhai. When they are approached by Lord Nityananda to please chant Hare Krishna, for the most part, they behave like Jagai and Madhai. They don't like being approached, and they respond in different ways, sometimes quite aggressively. So, Lord Chaitanya showed his anger. He was going to kill them right then and there. But Lord Nityananda reminded him, they're all like that. To show your mercy, you've come here to save them. If you get angry and you kill them, then how will they get devotional service? So because Lord Nityananda intervened like that on their behalf, the drunkard brothers heard this exchange between Nityananda and Chaitanya, and they became enlightened as to what the real goal of life was, immediately on the spot. And Lord Chaitanya gave them pure devotional service, even though they had acted like that with Lord Nityananda. Why? Because in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, we can't get angry, because everyone is like that, and then the whole time everyone would just always be angry. That's all there would be. Everybody would just be angry. And there's plenty to get angry about. But for spreading Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada is advising the humble state of mind. This is Lord Chaitanya advising. Chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw on the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In that state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So, this angry business, not a good idea. Better to become attached to the instructions of the Lord and be able to chant Hare Krishna constantly than to become angry and have fire come out of your mouth and burn the trees down. So, can preach without difficulty, then get rid of this anger. Also, Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami mentions this as one of the things that an acharya, someone who's wanting to preach, should be an acharya, is they control their anger, control their words, control their mind, their speech, control the tongue, the belly, the genitals. They're in control of their senses and their faculties. And one of those things is anger. So, text 6. This is Sukadeva Goswami speaking. My dear King Parikshit, when Soma, the king of the trees and predominating deity of the moon, saw the fire and wind burning all the trees to ashes, he felt great sympathy, because he's the maintainer of all herbs and trees. To appease the anger of the Prachetas, Soma spoke as follows. Okay, so when we hear these things, Soma, the king of the trees, so how can we understand that? Well, we're spirit. We're not material bodies or minds. We're spirit. And the spiritual energy can manifest in many, many different ways within the material energy and on many different levels. This is the wonderful creativity and artistry that by mixing the three modes of material nature, these different forms come. So, Soma, the moon god, we're talking about spirit here. And we're not imagining these things because we're hearing from these authorities, these great realized souls. So, it's not stories, moralistic stories, and it's not fables, and it's not mythology. This is spiritual science. So there is a moon god. There is a living entity who is known as Soma, and he is in charge of the trees. He's a predominating deity of the moon. Now, even modern scientists will agree. They discover these things after so much experimenting and everything, which is already clearly stated in the Bhagavatam. It's already clearly stated. They study and study and study, and they finally found, oh yeah, that the moon has something to do with agriculture. Even the Old Farmer's Almanac, way before modern scientists, quote unquote modern scientists, they would plant by the cycles of the moon. So Soma, he's the deity of the moon, and he was feeling some compassion for the plight of the trees and the herbs on the planet. So he's intervening here to appease the anger of the Prachetas. Soma spoke as follows. Prabhupada's commentary. It's understood that from this verse, the predominating deity of the moon is the maintainer of all the trees and plants throughout the universe. It is due to moonshine that trees and plants grow very luxuriantly. Therefore, how can we accept the so-called scientists whose moon expeditions have informed us there are no trees or vegetation on the moon? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Soma vrikshaditashta sa eva vrikshanam raja. Soma, the predominating deity of the moon, is the king of all vegetation. How can we believe that the maintainer of vegetation has no vegetation on his own planet? So, take a little swipe there at the material scientists. And we will continue at another time. Krishna willing.